playing at least one game for each character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's the challenge I set myself at the tail end of last year. I've been streaming my progress on Twitch, and now I've decided to start documenting this journey on YouTube as well. We started this challenge with Mario, and we'll be ending it with Sora. There aren't many, if any, swordsmen in gaming more famous than Link. He's been exploring Hyrule since the 80s. He's had many incarnations across the series, and this is reflected in Smash Bros. But the one we're looking at today comes from the hit 2017 title, Breath of the Wild. My past two videos focused on a more review style, but I don't think I can do that for Breath of the Wild. These videos are meant to be more about my experiences playing them. While I've definitely played the game enough to review it, in my most recent playthrough I did things a little differently. I had played through Breath of the Wild recently before starting this challenge, so I didn't want to do another 100-hour playthrough. So I wanted a more focused experience for this playthrough. I just wanted to focus on the main quests, which for me meant taking down the 4 Divine Beasts, claiming the Master Sword, and getting the Master Cycle. I also changed my approach to how I normally play this game, saving Var Meadow for last and waiting until all Divine Beasts are beaten before grabbing the Master Sword. That way I wouldn't over-rely on the sword or Rivali's Gale. That said, if you haven't actually played Breath of the Wild, I should probably explain what the game is. Breath of the Wild is an open-world, open-air adventure game. 100 years ago, Link was defeated in battle and placed in the Shrine of Resurrection at the Great Plateau to be revived. Once you get past the tutorial area that is the Great Plateau, you can go anywhere or do anything you want. You can go straight to the final boss if you want to, or completely ignore the main quest. The game encourages you to go to Kakariko Village where you will meet with Impa and learn of the Divine Beasts, the game's versions of dungeons. Though, you can also just go straight to them and ignore Kakariko Village. You can tackle them in whatever order you want. Defeating Divine Beast grants Link a new ability, and it was these abilities that influenced the order I completed the Divine Beasts in. You see, there's an ability called Rivali's Gale you get for beating Var Meadow that launches you high in the sky, and it's fantastic for overworld travel, and I pretty much always go for it first. Even in my first playthrough back in 2017, I knew the Flying Divine Beasts granted you something akin to flying beforehand, so it was the first one I beat. So this time, I wanted to mix things up. I went to Var Meadow last. This meant I couldn't just soar over cliffs in the way I used to. This even affected the other Divine Beasts because Rivali's Gale could be used to cheese some of the puzzles. Another thing that affected how I played through the Divine Beasts is my access to the Master Sword. Usually I get this pretty early on and it's extremely powerful inside the Divine Beasts. A 60 power sword that doesn't break or be dropped kinda trivializes the bosses in these places. So I made sure to wait until after I beat each Divine Beast before getting it. Admittedly, this didn't affect things too much as my other weapons got the job done, but its absence was definitely felt in the fight against Thunderblight Ganon since he kept making me drop my weapons. Beyond that though, there wasn't much else to report. Can't say I'd play through the game like that again. Exploration is my favourite part of Breath of the Wild, and Rivali's Gale just added to that so much. I did find myself using a horse more often without it, but it still made climbing towers in a mountain a chore. The main story honestly plays second fiddle to the thrill of discovering new locations and just exploring the world. The Divine Beasts especially are a shadow of what came before. It's no wonder that the #1 desire for the sequel across the internet is the return of traditional Zelda dungeons. Dungeon bosses are lame too. With the exception of the DLC boss, all the bosses are so thematically similar that they just sort of blend together. I think I'd rather fight the overworld bosses, which are great fights in their own right. Spoilers for a 5-year-old game, but unfortunately lame bosses extends to the final boss as well. The first phase against the Calamity makes for a tough challenge, but the second phase tries to be more cinematic, and in the end you just get a giant pig who doesn't really do anything. Ganon in general really disappointed me in this game. Though I feel less strongly about it these days, I was so disappointed how much of a mindless monster he felt like in this game. The first real Zelda game with voice acting, and the main villain is left mute. Though it seems the sequel will be fixing that, so I'm really looking forward to that. I know I've been fairly negative so far, but playing through the main story did have one big advantage. It's through the main story we are introduced to the best characters in the game, the champions. These are the 4 heroes who pilot the divine beast in the past who were killed 100 years ago. Freeing a divine beast will free their spirit, letting them unleash a devastating blow against Ganon in the final battle, depleting half his health. The champions are awesome, and the DLC in this game focuses almost entirely on them. Daruk is a Goron chief who is a good buddy of Link. Mipha is a Zora princess who is in love with Link. Rivali is a Rito jerk who considers himself a rival to Link and is the one who grants Rivali's gale mentioned above. And then you have Urbosa. She's my favourite of the 4. She's a powerful Gerudo chief and acts as a motherly figure to Zelda. A genuinely caring figure who is also a genuine badass. She has this amazingly offensive power called Urbosa's Fury that can down bosses in second. I saved her for second last for that reason. She also feels more involved with the central conflict because as a Gerudo, she holds a personal grudge against Ganon because of the shame he has brought to her people. I'd love to see this expanded in the sequel, but this would be difficult since, you know, she's kind of dead now. But I'm glad they were able to get the spotlight they deserve through the DLC and the Warriors spin-off, Age of Calamity. If you want to learn even more about the champions, I recommend you check out this video by Zeltic who ranked each of the champions by power. It's highly entertaining and he goes pretty in depth into each champion. One thing I'm bringing up now, just because it just crossed my mind, is that on each playthrough I do of this game, I feel less and less inclined to find the Koroks. Finding them helps expand your inventory, but there's so many of them. I just don't care about them anymore. I never collected them all in my original playthrough anyway, though I did get enough to max out my inventory. This time though, I barely bothered. You'll rarely find yourself in a situation where you have to worry about inventory though. If you find a weapon breaking, there'll probably just be another one nearby. And the Master Sword and Hylian Shield definitely reduces the need for other weapons of those types. The main joy for me in exploring the world is finding the shrines. I didn't find them all this time around, but they are these bite-sized puzzles that can be beaten pretty quickly and are required to boost your HP and stamina. This is notable for needing to get the Master Sword. This isn't specifically related to my most recent playthrough, but I still wanted to talk about the game's presentation. It's visually very stunning. It does have slowdowns here or there, but nothing that ever personally bothered me. But colours really pop here with this vibrant art style. The views in this game are jaw-dropping, and the developers knew this because they included plenty of high-up locations. And then there's the music. The music is phenomenal in this game when it's actually playing. The musical direction in this game is technically amazing, but it goes for an overall more atmospheric approach, which just kind of bores me. I'm the sort of person who would play the Song of Passing in Wind Waker just so I could keep it daytime and listen to the Great Sea theme. And I'm not sure how to feel about the erratic use of the piano and themes like the enemy theme and the horse theme. I don't hate it, but I don't particularly love it either. Zelda is one of my favourite series of all time, and although Breath of the Wild isn't my favourite Zelda game, we'll get to that, it does have a lot of my favourite elements. My favourite version of Hyrule is my favourite depiction of recurring races like the Zora, Gerudo, Goron and Rito, and possibly my favourite depiction of Link. He's not my favourite design, again we'll get to that, but I love that this Link feels more like a character in this and less like an avatar. I actually like that you can't name Link in this. Characters treat him like he is Link instead of awkwardly avoiding saying his name. Link is his own character. He's still silent, but you can find journals where you find out he's actually opens up to others. There's even a reason he remains silent. And supposedly, in the Japanese version, the text description for side quests is Link's own opinion. And his animations are so good, especially when cooking and eating. This is one of the most expressive Links in any game, and I love it. And I have to say, he rocks that ponytail. I won't lie, I've been tempted to grow my own solely because of this game. I'm getting there. This was a pretty easy choice to play as my default Link game. Most of the other candidates are taken by other Zelda characters. The only other one I considered was the original Zelda game. But the only thing that has going for it is that it's the original. I try to choose the games based on how involved the character is and how much personality they show off. Also, how much fun I think I'll have plays a factor, and I kinda suck at the original Zelda. And Breath of the Wild is leagues above it. Though Breath of the Wild does feel like a full realization of the original idea, so I have to give some credit to the original Zelda game. If you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend giving it a go. Though don't play it the way I did. It's a game I think is best enjoyed, just doing everything on a whim. Wanna climb that mountain? Climb that mountain! Something catch your eye? Check it out! There are a lot of jaw-dropping surprises you'll find, just looking around. I don't think I'll ever forget the first time I saw a dragon or encountered the Blood Moon. It's available on both Wii U and Switch, so definitely give it a go if you've got the systems. The sequel may have been delayed, but Breath of the Wild is the game that 5 years later is still having new ways of having fun being discovered. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, as I've got big ideas coming, and you may have noticed that I've rebranded myself a little. I'm hoping to make my channel stand out more, and any little bit helps. If you want to see me play these games, I'm currently in the process of playing Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu on Twitch, which will be linked in the description below. Though, I may be taking a small break to focus on getting these videos out, as I don't want to get too far ahead. But until then, bye!